Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Building Energy Reduction Incentive webinar. Thanks for joining today. It looks like folks are coming in. We've got 30 people in and growing. It's 11:01, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome and thanks for joining the second in our series of our monthly Building Performance Standards webinar installments. Today, we are going to focus on the Building Energy Reduction Incentive Program. Last month, we discussed Building Performance Standards 101, had some great discussion questions and interactions from attendees. We're looking forward to another great session today. If you missed that webinar, or if you attended but want to go back and review what was discussed, there's a recording up on our website with the full Q&A at the end, and it's available on our BPS stakeholder engagement website. So today, as I mentioned, we'll be giving an overview of the Building Energy Reduction Incentive, or BERI program, which launched earlier this month and will be open for applications until April 10th. We'll be walking through the program requirements and application process, and there will be a Q&A session at the end. But kind of before we get kicked off, why don't we go ahead and introduce the members of the ODO Building Performance Standards Codes and Standards team. I'll start. I'm Blake Shalide. I manage the Codes and Standards section here, and I'll just go as I see folks on the screen and call on names. Judy, you're up.
Hi, I'm Judy Stockwell. Welcome, everybody. And I'm the Public Service Representative for Codes and Standards.
Thanks, Judy. Josh.
I'm Josh Price. I'm the Program Analyst for the BERI program.
Thanks, Josh. Ken.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Ken Davies, Program Analyst with the Codes and Standards Building Performance team.
Thanks, Ken. Jennifer.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Jennifer Villanueva, Division Assistant for ODO.
And Lisa.
Hi, Lisa Gartland. I'm a facilities engineer in the Codes and Standards group and provide technical services to BPS.
Thanks, Lisa. Andrew.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Andrew Johnson, a program analyst with the Codes and Standards team and the BPS team, working primarily on the incentive programs.
Thanks, Andrew. And Madeline.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Madeline O'Dwyer. I am a program analyst in Codes and Standards, primarily focusing on BPS.
All right. Thanks, team, for doing the introductions. Hopefully, folks on the call have had a chance to interact with one or a few of the folks on our team, and we are always here to answer your BPS questions or incentive questions or any other ones that you have. So can we get the slide deck up on the screen, and we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks. So, as I mentioned, today we're giving an overview of the BERI program, which we launched earlier this month. And as we walk through today, hopefully give you an overview and kind of answer any questions that you have. There'll be an opportunity at the end for Q&A. So similar to our last BPS webinar, we are recording this presentation. It'll be posted to our BPS stakeholder engagement website for later on-demand access and reference. And the slide deck, if you're interested, is already posted up on the website if you wanted to reference it kind of as we're going through today. So this slide shows our agency's vision, mission, and primary roles. And just a reminder that all of our programs are targeted toward the vision of a safe, equitable, and clean and sustainable energy future. We think that the Building Performance Standard plays an integral role in all of this, helping to ensure efficient, cost-effective operational energy use for large commercial and multifamily buildings in Oregon, and that it aligns with several of ODO's specific focus actions, like being a central repository for data, venue for problem solving, energy education, regulation, and energy programs like incentives. Next slide, please. So here is an overview of the Microsoft Teams functionality. You can see the chat feature on the upper left, along with the raise hand function and reactions nearby. Please also keep note of the video and audio settings and place yourself on mute unless you're recognized and intending to speak. Since we are recording this presentation, we're going to allow our ODO speakers today to move through the content, but please feel free along the way to put questions in the chat or take note on your own and raise the questions at the end. We'll have a Q&A session at the end to hopefully address everything that comes up. but we are going to hold all Q&A to the end so that we can move through material and have a continuous presentation for posting online. Next slide, please. Here's our agenda for today. Today, our team will start out by briefly going over the basics of Oregon's Building Performance Standard as a refresher and to provide the general context for today, but please refer to other materials like last month's BPS 101 or our guidance documents on our website for more detail about the BPS program in general. For the focus on today's presentation is to give everyone more insight and guidance into the Berry incentive program, the eligibility criteria, and then a detailed walkthrough of the application process and what information you'll need to fill out the application materials. We'll finish up the presentation today with plenty of time for Q&A, so please, again, feel free to place your questions in the chat along the way. We'll be gathering them to address them after our speakers are finished going through. So kind of with that very focused scope in mind, we would like to keep all the questions and discussions similarly focused. We're always happy to discuss any individual specific building BPS related questions, but most of those, if they're not very related, can be better served through our direct interactions through our help desk or emails or calling our program staff in a different forum. But if you have any Berry questions, please feel free to raise those today. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Andrew to get started with the main parts of our webinar.
Thank you, Blake. So before we get to the Berry program, we want to talk a little bit about general BPS requirements. And I see some familiar names in the meeting here. So this will probably be review for many of you. But just to go through some of the basic BPS requirements, I think is worthwhile to set us up for what we're going to talk about with the Berry program. Next slide, please. So the covered buildings under the BPS are broken into two different categories, Tier 1 buildings and Tier 2 buildings. You can see on the left of this graphic, Tier 1 buildings consist of non-residential hotel and motel, 35,000 square feet and above. Tier 2 buildings, regular Tier 2 buildings, consist of non-residential hotel and motel, 20,000 square feet to 35,000 square feet. And over on the right of the graphic, if your building is a multifamily residential, hospital, school, university, dorm, barracks, prison, or residential senior care facility, your building is considered a special Tier 2 building if it's over 35,000 square feet. If your building is not in either of these Tier 1 or Tier 2 categories, your building is considered not covered and not subject to the BPS requirements. You'll also see to the right of each building graphic the compliance dates, and they're different depending on your activity type and building size. Next slide, please. So speaking of compliance dates, if your building is a Tier 1 building, 35,000 to 90,000 square feet, your compliance date is June 1st, 2030. If your building is a Tier 1 building, 90,000 to 200,000 square feet, your compliance date is June 1st, 2029. Buildings 200,000 square feet and greater for Tier 1, compliance date is June 1st, 2028. And the compliance date for all Tier 2 buildings is the same, July 1st, 2028. Now you'll see when we talk about the Berry program, the early compliance dates are before the actual BPS compliance dates, and we'll talk about those specific dates a little bit later in the presentation. Next slide, please. So there are exemptions and considerations for historic buildings. Buildings are exempt or can be exempt if they're buildings for manufacturing or industrial buildings, agricultural buildings, buildings that do not have a certificate of occupancy, buildings less than 50% occupancy, buildings with a large amount of unconditioned floor area, and buildings that are experiencing financial hardship. Historic buildings are not exempt. However, if you do have a historic building, you do not need to install energy efficiency measures that compromise the historic integrity of the building. Next slide, please. So what should building owners do now? The first thing you're going to want to do, and some of you may have already completed this, verify your building information in the property inventory list. You can find the link on the BPS website. And if you received a letter from us with your UBID number, you can search your property by UBID. You can also search your property by property address. And this will just be asking for basic building information such as mailing address, property type, square footage, etc. Once you're done completing your building information in the property inventory list, you're going to want to start gathering energy-related information. This is utility billing data, verifying the square footage of your property and activity type. And this information will be used by the energy professional that you choose to complete many of the compliance actions, including the energy benchmarking and reporting compliance action. So Josh will talk about this a little bit later, but for general BPS requirements, both Tier 1 and Tier 2 buildings need to find an energy professional to complete much of the work, including the energy benchmarking and reporting and other things like I mentioned. For the energy audit, you will need to find a qualified energy auditor. And again, we'll talk about this a little later, but for all Berry applications, you will need to have a qualified energy auditor complete energy audit and submit the audit with Form E and the audit report with the application. Next slide, please. So a little brief overview of the Building Energy Reduction Incentive, the Berry program. Next slide. So funding for the Berry program is coming from federal funding through a state CERTA grant. Funding is $12 million total for the program, and the incentive is intended to help building owners offset the cost of achieving their energy use intensity target. The incentive is available for Tier 1, Tier 2, and tribal buildings, and applications will be reviewed competitively, similar to our other incentive program, the ECAP program. Next slide. Eligible buildings must have a baseline energy use intensity that exceeds the building energy use intensity target. And incentives must be used for energy efficiency measures such as HVAC upgrades that reduce the energy use intensity and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. As I mentioned, a qualified energy auditor must conduct an energy audit and complete an energy audit report. And exempt buildings are not eligible for Berry incentives. Next slide. So the compliance dates are a little different than the general compliance dates. In order to receive an incentive payment, a building owner must complete the energy efficiency measures before the early compliance date that you can see here. These compliance dates are a year to a year and a half before the actual compliance date, and they're different for Tier 1 and Tier 2 buildings. For Tier 1 buildings, the early compliance date is June 1st, 2027 for the largest buildings, June 1st, 2028 for buildings 90,000 to 200,000 square feet, and October 1st, 2028 for buildings 35,000 to 90,000 square feet. And the early compliance date is the same for all Tier 2 buildings, and that is the same as the actual compliance date of July 1st, 2028. Next slide. Due to the limited amount of funding, similar to ECAP, we have maximum amounts per award. For tier 1 buildings, the maximum incentive is $100,000. And for tier 2 buildings, the maximum incentive is $50,000. We plan 2 rounds, the same amounts for both rounds. $4 million reserved for tier 1 buildings, $1.5 million reserved for tier 2 buildings, and $450,000 reserved for tribal buildings. And a building owner may submit a maximum of 2 applications for each funding round. However, a building owner is limited to a total of 2 awards for all funding rounds. Next slide. So now I will hand it over to Josh, who's going to talk about the Berry application process.
Thank you, Andrew. That was really great. I think that really set us up for the Berry application process. So I'm Josh Price. I am the program analyst for the Building Energy Reduction Incentive Program, also known as Berry. I'm going to be going through each step of the Berry application process. Let me start by suggesting everyone, before you start your application, I highly recommend reading the opportunity announcement on the BPS website. It will help really ground a lot of questions and help you succeed in your overall application. I'm going to go step by step through this application. Some of it's just going to be screenshots from the actual application, and then a few of the other tasks that are going to be required to provide a eligible application for Berry. The very first thing you need to do is put in your unique building ID number, as known as your UBID, in the first line of the application. This is the building identifier. This is how we know which building you're applying for the Berry program. You'll next need to provide the physical address for the building, and then we will need the building owner's information. It is essential that we have the correct owner information because this is how we distribute the incentive payment at the end of the application process, or at the end of your completion of your project. After you've completed all the owner information, if you have a property or building manager, that information can also be provided on the application. That might be the person we work with directly through this application or is managing the property to ensure that all energy efficiency measures are addressed and then can be applied for incentive funding. And finally, we need to have the gross floor area of the covered building, excluding any parking garage of your building. So whatever your building size is, put that number there. This is a list of who is required to complete what tasks on the application. There are many different tasks throughout this application, and a specific person is needed to work on many items. So as you can see, the Berry application and updating the property inventory list can be done by the building owner or also the property manager. And then we get to the items that need to be done by a qualified energy professional. We'll go into these tasks later in this presentation. This is just a quick overview reference guide for anyone to come to and say, okay, who needs to do what on my application? So with our Oregon BPS target tool for a tier 1 building, this needs to be completed by a qualified person, or for a tier 2, it needs to be done by a qualified energy manager or qualified person. For the Energy Star portfolio manager, that also for tier 1 needs to be done by a qualified person, or for tier 2, a qualified energy manager or a qualified person. And then for all Berry applications, you need a qualified energy auditor to do an energy audit report and fill out the Berry Form E that is available on the BPS website. Since all applications require qualified energy professionals, BPS has made it easy for building owners to find one. There is a downloadable contact list available on the BPS website. You need to make sure that the qualified energy professional you have working on your application material has been approved by Odo BPS. Any energy professionals can submit their qualifications to Odo BPS with the Form Q and become approved, and then they can start working on all the tasks that are required for the Berry application. For more information on who can become a qualified energy professional or information about what it takes to be a qualified energy professional, that can be all found on the BPS website. Now we move to the first task that needs to be completed by a qualified energy professional, the Energy Star Portfolio Manager. Remember, for Tier 1 buildings, you need a qualified person, and for Tier 2, you need a qualified energy manager or a qualified person who can work on this task. Your qualified energy professional will need 12 continuous months of energy bills from the last 24 months for your building. After your qualified energy professional has input all the information into the ESPM account for your building, you will need to create an ESPM report that you will attach to the application itself. Instructions on how to create this required report from ESPM are located on the last page of the Berry application. We are also working on a step-by-step video to walk people through the creation of this report, and that should hopefully be on our BPS website shortly. In addition to creating this report, the qualified energy professional will need to share a connection with the Oregon BPS ESPM account. And when the BPS account accepts your shared connection, that qualified energy professional will need to go back in and share the property with Oregon BPS. When your qualified energy professional has completed the Energy Star Portfolio Manager info, we head back to the Berry application. This is where you'll input your weather normalized site energy use intensity number from the ESPM data. On the application, we want to confirm that you will be attaching your ESPM data report to the application, and then also that you have requested to connect with Odo's ESPM account. Here is an example of what the ESPM report download will look like. It is an Excel file. There will be 2 tabs. On the first tab, it will have the GFA and the weather normalized site EUI. And the second tab will have all your buildings' energy data of 12 consecutive months out of the last 24 months. And this will need to be attached to the application when you submit. And then we move to the BPS target tool. This is another task that must be completed by a qualified energy professional. For Tier 1, again, you will need a qualified person, and for Tier 2, a qualified energy manager or qualified person. Remember, any of these tasks can also be done by a qualified energy auditor for both the target tool and Energy Star Portfolio Manager. The target tool is available on the BPS website for download. It is an Excel form and needs to be filled out by your qualified energy professional. When it is completed, it provides the energy use intensity target number that will be required for the application. The completed target tool will also need to be attached to the application at submission. More information about the target tool is available on the BPS website. So if you want to know how it works or any other background on it, please visit the BPS website. The next 2 tasks need to be completed only by a qualified energy auditor. So finding a certified qualified energy auditor on our BPS list is who needs to create a energy audit report for your building. Here are some of the requirements. More information is available on the BPS website about that report and what is needed in it. They need to show the baseline building energy system and energy use and what proposed cost-effective energy efficiency measures and the savings calculations in that report. When they have finished the energy audit, they can take that information and put it into the Berry Form E. This will give us a summary of all the energy efficiency measures and provide information to us on the lifetime greenhouse gas reductions for these measures. And both the energy audit report and Form E need to be attached to the application submission. Now we go back to the application. Everybody, when you using your target tool, you will find the number for the energy use intensity target, and you will provide that number in 3A. And then you will look at that number and go back to your ESPM report and look at the weather normalized site EUI and determine if that number is higher than your EUIT. You are then eligible for the Berry program. So if your number is the same or lower than your energy use intensity target, you are not eligible, unfortunately, for BPS, but that means you are already in BPS compliance, and we'll just need to do the reporting of your building when we have the system available this summer. Also, on this part of the application, we just want to reiterate what you need to attach to the final submission of the application. So a completed target tool needs to be attached to the Berry application. The Form E, the Berry Form E, that was done by your qualified energy auditor, and the energy audit report itself should all be attached to the application. We ask that you list all the qualified energy professionals that have worked on tasks for your application. Put the energy auditor first would be really helpful, and then all the other qualified person or qualified energy managers that may have worked on other parts of your application. Then we need the name of your electric utility company and the gas utility company. And then just a reminder, making sure to attach the report that you created from the ESPM to this application. And then finally, indicate what type of property your building is. If it's a multifamily, a hospital, school, university, dormitory, barracks, prison, residential or senior care, a hotel, motel, or non-residential. It'll help us also put all the buildings in the right categories. You also need to provide the activity types for your building. This information will come from the target tool that your qualified energy professional worked on. And then indicate if your building is a multifamily affordable housing, and if it is, please attach the documentation for our records for your application submission. Then we ask that you indicate what type of building it is, if it's a tier 1, a tier 2, and if this is a tribal building, please indicate that to us also. And then we want you to provide the cost of all energy efficiency measures you're proposing to complete to get to your energy use intensity target. And then we want you to list any anticipated funding you might be receiving for any of these projects other than the Berry incentives. So if there's any federal, state, local utility grants, rebates, or incentives that you're anticipating receiving, you can also list those on this application. Then we have the incentive amount you're requesting. So for tier 1 buildings, remember the max you can get is $100,000, and for tier 2 buildings, you can receive $50,000. So attach that. We ask that you attach project plans with timelines and milestones, and we want those timelines and milestones to be completed by the Berry compliance dates that Andrew went over earlier. We also want to know if you applied for the BPS ECAP program, the Early Compliance Action and Planning Program that happened a couple of months ago. Please indicate if you applied for that for your building and if you received a notification for award. Please let us know about that. And then finally, we get to the final page of the application, the esthetician page. And this is just saying the owner is aware, is filling out this application, and that all the information in the application is true and accurate. And now you are ready to submit your application. Let's do a quick review of all the items that you'll need to make sure to attach to the email or regular mail that you send for your application. If you're sending it over UPS mail or USPS mail or the email address. First, you'll need to attach your fully finished Berry application, the Oregon BPS target tool, the ESPN spreadsheet data, the report that you created from the ESPN site, the energy audit done by your qualified energy auditor, the Berry Form E that was done by the energy auditor, the project plans with timeline and milestones, and then if you are a multi-family affordable housing, the documentation for that. Remember that this application needs to be received to Odo no later than 5 p.m. on April 10th, 2026. Any applications received after 5 p.m. will be ineligible for this round of incentive funding. In the opportunity announcement, we listed the scoring criteria for each building tier type. So here is from the opportunity announcement. This is for tier 1 buildings. So we will be competitively reviewing all applications and they will be scored based on this criteria. And for tier 2, they have similar scoring criteria, but a few extra items that can be scored based on multifamily and affordable multifamily. If you want to always look at this is always available in the opportunity announcement. Here is a timeline for the Berry applications. The incentive applications opened on February 9th. Today is February 20th. And all applications must be received by 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on April 10th, 2026. Odo will review all applications and score them based on the scoring criteria. And we hope to have awardees announced 60 days after rounds close, right around June 9th, 2026. A few easy links for anybody who wants to learn more about any of the programs or any of the forums that we talked about today. The Building Energy Performance Standards link has all that information about the target tools and energy professionals. And then the Energy Star Portfolio Manager link for your qualified energy professional to work on for your application, and then the link to the actual application for the Berry program. In addition, we will be holding some open office hours for very detailed questions, or if you have any other questions about Berry, those will be March 4th from 1 to 2, March 18th, 1 to 2 p.m., and April 1st, 1 to 2 p.m. And this would be a great place to jump in. These links will be available on the BPS website if you have some direct questions. If you don't want to come into one of our open office hours, you can always send us an email at the Oregon BPS Berry email address, and we can answer your questions as they come in a timely manner. And I just want to thank everyone for taking the time today to go over the Berry application. I hope this webinar has been helpful for you and provides some answers